teaching rocks how to rust, it began here. The rocks in the chair, and this is the School of Iron. Now, everyone comes to the planet has to go through the School of Iron. The iron is there to teach you to do something that will make you self-destruct, or it cannot happen. Because if you learn how to rust, you're in a state of deterioration. So as iron is trying to teach you how to rust, to be something you can't be, it's off to the side doing this research, trying to become what you are. This vehicle represents all modes of transportation. That it symbolizes however you travel to get to school, bus, train, etc. That's what's happening here. That's what it symbolizes. Now, if you have a problem with what iron is doing, it tells you you can go to this area here, set up and protest. We won't do anything to you. But the minute you go to that area, they lock you up in the detention center. In the detention center, you have iron, wood, and rocks in the detention center. The detention center, they had a lot of time on their hand. That's where they did their research, and they discovered that iron came from rocks. So they said, okay, this is some information we should tell iron so it won't be so mean and trying to get everybody to be like itself. So when they told iron, some of the iron believed it, and iron began to fight amongst itself. Now, as iron were fighting amongst itself, rocks freed themselves. That's that school over there. And then they began to teach themselves.
That's the School of Rock.
Right. But rocks, when it's open to school, it began to teach itself how to rust. So the important thing in that is when you receive your freedom, you can't just run off and teach whatever you think you should know, because you may be doing iron's job for it. And so now rocks are trying to teach themselves how to rust, and iron no longer has to be actively involved. That's an Inkisi. That Inkisi is there, that the piece
right in
with
front
the
of me.
face on it. Yeah. That, it's when iron was in control of rocks, this is how rocks would use iron because of its medicinal healing properties. It created the Inkisi, and every time you put a piece of iron in it, you asked it for something, and it empowered you. So rocks was using iron in a very positive manner. We put some items behind the Inkisi's navel that mirror just below its chin.
The mirror is its navel?
Yeah. We put some, just pick some weeds up, and we said, okay, we're going to see if it really works, the Inkisi, because it's traditionally used in Africa in a lot of areas. In fact, the Inkisi became the basis for the voodoo doll.
Oh, yeah?
You know, putting the nails in the voodoo doll. Yeah, so we asked this Inkisi to do two things. First, not to allow the city to see this. And secondly, vandals would not come out here and destroy it.
And tag it or ruin it?
It's been here 10 years, as is. No one, and it's open 24/7, have done anything to desecrate it.
Have you ever found people hanging out back here? Or?
Yeah, people come out,
They're allowed,
go out here all times, night and day, because there's a whole different feel out here at night. You really get to see these mirrors, sunlight, well, not sunlight, but lights reflecting off these mirrors, and it becomes a light show. There are people who argue with me and say that I have electric lights out here. But not so. It's just, it's amazing how light can find a mirror and reflect off. This is Igbo. The Igbo people of northern Nigeria.
This right here in front of me.
They, that mask on top of his head, it represents the beauty of the Igbo female, and it also embodies all the qualities that iron is trying to get. Freedom to do whatever it wants, freedom to live where it want, freedom not to be forced into the school of rust. That's what that piece symbolizes there. So it's there to protect all the rocks who are trying to get out of that system. This wall here is here because of the relationship that Africans have with mirrors. A little small piece of mirror could be used to communicate with the ancestors. A small piece of mirror could be used to house all kinds of energy coming from the sun. And you could also take a small mirror and start a fire. That was fascinating to our ancestors, that you could actually
capture the sun in the mirror.
Yeah, and start a fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was fascinating. It could not be explained at the time. So mirrors and iron had a very special place in
that's solar energy. That's my expertise.
Is that right? Okay, yeah. And that's this here. All of this here represents the Africans who fought against being enslaved, those who jumped off the ships, and those who, when they got here, tried to get back to Africa. This is a monument. This is their sacred
all of these
barrier.
pieces together.
The whole land. It's built on the knowledge of the lives that were lost for us to regain some of our independence. But that's the actual monument there.
Okay.
To that. Now, there was another group of people in this fight, and that's the wood. All of this is taking place on the land of the wood. Now, the land of the wood is the Washita and Native Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Iron hasn't backed off yet. It's just changed its ways. Iron built this reservation and put wood on it, but he gave wood casinos. That's these pastels represent casinos. Now that the casino is making all kinds of money, iron is trying to figure out a way to get some of that money, get involved with gambling on the casino. This is iron teaching rocks table manners.
Oh, nice. And are they celebrating something? Is the cake?
The cake is part of the birthday thing. You got to honor your birthday. That's that's not a system out of Africa. Birthday. This one here gets to be a little tricky. In the file cabinets is all of rocks history.
Okay.
And it's being presented at some time as actually being rocks history, but in actuality, iron did something, so rocks would never think in terms of it as being theirs. Iron art, but what's in the file cabinets is really Africans' history.
Mm-hmm.
These file cabinets represent the European museums that houses African art.
Okay.
And they're in these file cabinets. They bring it out occasionally.
They're stored away and not
stored
being in
away,
use.
and they control how they exhibit it and call it.
They're all locked up with this cable.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't
behind
know
a fence.
Now, African had a system that was based on 4 quarters. You were born. You became a young adult, 12, 13, 14 years old. Then you moved towards raising a family. Then you live to become an elder.
Mm-hmm.
The last phase is here. You live to become an ancestor. You actually prepared for your transformation. It wasn't called death.
Mm-hmm.
That's the system. That's an animate system. But now we're on the system that we die and we wait for someone to judge us to see if we go to heaven or hell. So that alone suggests that we still should connect back with our own system, because our own system did not stress us out in the last quarter about where we were going. It was more realistic. You're just going to be up there advising some folks lived here.
As an ancestor.
As an ancestor. And all the European ways tricked us that he have us thinking that when we so-called prayed, that we were praying to a supreme being. In actuality, we were asked an ancestor to assist us in some form or fashion. That's our garden over there. We grow a large variety of foods, and anyone can come out there and get those foods if they want to.
Who is that? Mostly you maintaining that, or is it?
There's another lady named Felicia, Team 313. She works with youth, and they do the garden.
Mm-hmm. Who is Perrette? I haven't been introduced to Perrette.
Perrette is my wife. When we first started out, as Dabls Perrette's gallery.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to keep the Dabls because it's known by so many people in the community. We had that name for about 15 years, almost 20 years. But 10 years ago, we got out of the business of selling. We went into the business of educating. So what we're doing now, we are trying to establish the foundation for a culture institution that's grounded in actual traditional African systems of thought, as opposed to things that we have been doing some stuff in Africa for 200 or 300 years, but it's not tradition. But we've done it so long until people think that it's tradition. And so it's kind of hard to talk of Africa as being traditional when you're talking about Islam, European religions, and foreign ideals that have come in and been there so long until some of the people even think that they are their tradition. But they are not. Our tradition was curtailed from the 1400s for when the first Portuguese stopped in South Africa, in Zululand. He put up a sign and called it Natal, because it was during the winter month. It was close to the holiday that's celebrated during the European Christmas period of the year. Natal, the nativity scene. He was Portuguese, and so the first step on African land they claimed and started to rename and didn't stop. If you look at a map of Africa 400 years ago, you will see animus all over the place. You look at a map today, you will see nothing but Christianity and Islam. One or two little small areas, less than 1%, represents animus. So those two religions cannot coexist with animus because they prove they can. It's an oxymoron to say animus and Christianity or Islam. They just have never been able to work together.
Some monotheistic ones have to overtake the animus ones.
Now this one here is to acknowledge the importance of the tree. This is my interpretation of a sculpture piece to honor the significance of the tree.
And is that why the chair is there, to study it, or
no?
To
I haven't decided what color I'm going to paint it, so I left the chair here, but the chair won't be there. It will just be the image.
Okay.
There. But I'm now working on that wall back there. This house, and the reason why I chose those 3 chevron beads, because as I said here, a lot of time history is taken away only because people think that no one else knows about it. The chevron beads, this is the most revered bead today, but...
which bead?
You see those 3 red? Okay, those are stylized chevron beads.
Okay.
If you ever see the beads, oh, I can see it now.
The circle with the dot in the middle, or no?
No,
I'm sorry.
The 3, you see the 3 there are 3, 1, 2, 3, 3 beads there.
Oh, yeah. No, I got it.
Those are called chevron beads.
Okay.
Those are the most revered beads on the planet. Some of those beads can go for as much as $10,000, one bead. But Venice has claimed them. But yet, on the walls of Egypt, thousands of years before, you find those 3 beads on the walls.
That's made out of glass?
Yeah, the original ones were glass beads. Now, what's up there at the peak, that's the symbol for Inyama. Those who came before us, that energy that has to be controlled. Now, Target used that as its logo and has registered it as a copyright. But that's an ancient African symbol called Inyama. Upon the Inyama laid his egg upon the sun and gave birth to the universe, Inyama. So this whole place here, there are 2 things going on here. There's information here that you absorb without knowing anything about the story behind this stuff. Then there's a story to be told if I give a tour or talk about it. I'm working on a 5,000-word narrative talking about all the symbolism that's out here. But it's not a rush. I want to do the artwork first and then write the story, because I take pictures. I got the images.
Yeah, I mean, I would obviously I would be very helpful for someone like me that's just coming, and especially since I'm not African descent.
Right. Yes, you are. You just.
Oh, I am, but a long time. I'm European.
Right. Yeah. And
more recently.
But that's a good point that we get into, is that we all share this planet as being more alike than we are not.
Right.
But those differences, because they were used for political and war, have been they've been blown so much out of proportion until we can't even see how similar we are.
Right.
That is mind-boggling to me. It's the power of word, the power of manipulation, and the power of controlling people. We think that we have a lot of independent thought, but in actuality, we are being manipulated more so than we could ever imagine.
I should start saying I'm also an African American.
Yeah. It's the birthplace of all of mankind. And when we emphasize our differences, that's what becomes the point. If everyone just referred to themselves from a culture point of view, that this is where I came from, and just leave that alone, not think that you're better or less than anyone else. But it's going to take a long time to get there. But we will get there faster through the artists than anyone else, because that is their purpose, is to educate outside of books. Books is still not the best way to learn, but it's the one that everyone want, and it's the one that everyone think is the best way of learning. And some of these people who push books, 90% of that knowledge did not come from books. But we push it, and one good indicator that it's not meant for everybody, the time it takes to learn something. Learning is not a process that should take time like that. Pacific people in the community were set up to study, do specific things. Most people learn more through their senses, observation, etc. And you didn't have to travel 1,000 miles. That concept called common sense, mother wit, and gut feeling, it fights against so-called laws and facts and proving what you say, because your common sense and gut wit, you can explain why you don't particularly care about a certain person. But that proves to be true. Because that's you assessing that person based on
your experience,
signals that you're pulling in.
Signals.
Yeah. And so sometimes the structured education can do more harm to those that do not care for structured education. The system has to be for both. It cannot go to eliminate all people from being ignorant, because obviously ignorance is not that bad, and illiterate is not that bad, because those two things have been around far longer than so-called smart people and literate people.
Yeah, I mean, we're all born ignorant and illiterate, right?
So the world has to become more like it was in the past, accepting of everyone and everything, and not looking at one as being better than another one because you had more. Various classes was accepted. Various it all was accepted. Just people just wanted to be treated fairly. Now that gap is so wide now, until we're in the city here of Detroit, there are so many people who do not have means of providing basic food, living quarters.
Yep. Even though there's so much housing and so much area to grow food. I'm going to stop.